to another edition of Elevate Your Grind, live from the Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference. And we need to get a better name for the show just because I can't repeat 3C words over and over and over again every time I do my introduction. We're live here at the event. As you can see, it is going on behind us. I'm still distracted. They still have me in the fishbowl, but we're here bringing you the best of what this event has to offer. Like I said, it is an amazing event because it is the pages of my LinkedIn come to life. I get to jump into the computer screen and live vicariously through my LinkedIn page. So I have Aubrey Amatelli with me today, the co-founder and CEO of PayRio. Aubrey, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
A little bit closer.
Thank you, Todd.
Absolutely.
For having me.
Sorry, I should have told you that before we got on the way here. So
is this
A
better?
little bit about your background. PayRio is a payment processor.
Payment processor for dispensaries. So we help dispensaries accept credit and debit card through our card present terminal solution. Very exciting for me. I'm a payments nerd. I've been in, I love payments, love the industry, been in it my whole entire career at JP Morgan, the largest payment processor. So wanted to, summary, take that knowledge from JP Morgan and bring it to cannabis. Yeah.
How did you end up, which again, I've only more recently come into this world and seen all the players with it because of being in this industry, right? I never realized because the business gets set up and they take credit cards. Like I guess I'm too dumb to put two and two together of how that actually happens.
Yeah.
But getting into this industry, it was always originally early on, it was very hard to find payment processing partners and it was very easy to lose them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of businesses didn't want, they didn't intertwine their businesses for that reason if they did something else outside of cannabis.
Yeah.
How did you end up in the world of payments? Like what brought you into this space? I'm always intrigued to how people found their niche.
Payments in cannabis specifically?
Prior to that,
prior to that. Yeah, that's an
Morgan.
interesting. Yeah. So I was at a startup, a fast growing startup in the buy now, pay later craze.
Okay.
Way back when, and JP Morgan purchased the startup to fold us into their payments division.
That's
so
really
it wasn't
cool.
by choice. But I'm so grateful for that. So I didn't even really know what happened after I, at that time, swiped my credit card, and I didn't even care. And now it's what I talk about all day long, every day.
The only thing I cared about was how high the bill was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or it got approved, right?
That's really cool. So we were talking here. So you actually went through the startup world first and then got a taste of the corporate America, the structure, the scaling, the SOPs and all that.
Exactly.
And then you're like, well, this is fun. Now I'm going to take this and go do the startup again.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm born and raised Silicon Valley. So I think it's probably in my blood. Right.
It's a requirement there.
Yeah, exactly. And when JP Morgan purchased us, it was a great time in my life. I was having kids at the time. And so it was nice to have a secure job.
Yeah.
And I realized that, JP Morgan's the largest payment processor in the world. I didn't know until I left what a superpower that was, spending over a decade at one of the top payment processors in the world.
It's better than any MBA program you would have gone through. To get true real world experience. It's funny. I worked at a startup 4 or 5 years ago, and one of our founders, he was very young. He came out of the army, founded the company, and then he went back for his MBA. And he'd be in these business classes, and they would talk about like accounting and like amortization, all this stuff. And I remember one class, he told me a story where he raised his hand and he goes, well, what happens if your customers don't pay you?
Yeah.
And like, what do you mean? Like, well, like you're talking about these payment cycles and billing. What happens if they don't pay you? And like, we're talking about in a perfect way. And he's like, all right, I'm out.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys aren't teaching me anything practical.
So I mean, I actually did get my MBA as well in nonprofit management, a side passion of mine.
Very cool.
But it wasn't until I started my company where it's all of that's put to work, but you learn as you go. It's been the most exciting adventure ever. I'm wearing all the hats and wearing all the
face. You people know who you are.
Okay. Yeah.
Very cool. So wearing all the hats in the startup. So you go 10 years at JP Morgan, and then all of a sudden you have that 10 years of security. I'm assuming your kids are a little bit older at this point. What makes you decide, okay, I have this great secure job with this big company that nobody's ever heard of? Kidding, of course.
Yeah.
What makes you think, okay, I want to go back to that startup world? Is it just the freedom that you wanted? You wanted to, do things your way? What made you take that leap? Because that's one of the scariest things in the world to do.
It is a scary leap. I actually, before I started PayRio, I spent a year at a fintech.
Okay.
I was the chief revenue officer at the fintech. So JP Morgan, when I got the tap on the shoulder to interview for a dream job, C-suite position, especially as a female, huge opportunity, got the position and, got the blessing from my entire family at JP Morgan, say, take this as an opportunity of a lifetime. So I moved over to the fintech and was the chief revenue officer for a year. The only female in the entire C-suite and board, and wanted to change that. And, and the way in that situation I could change it is by
being right all the time.
I realized though, when going back into the startup world, that I had a superpower working at JP Morgan. That education helped me bring and really turn that revenue organization around. And, that was in an accounting and law vertical, which is great, but I wanted to help an industry that, I'm passionate about, and that's cannabis and CBD and health and wellness.
So you come from this, I don't want to, we'll call it traditional finance in the world of JP Morgan, doing processes, going to a fintech company, those are relatively safe, growing industries. What was that conversation like? How did your family, your kids, and everybody take it when you said, hey, I'm going to go jump into weed? Now, for those of us in the industry, understand that the upside and the opportunity is amazing, especially if you're real and you're passionate about it. Right. So we see that, but just from the outside in, like, wait, you're going to be a payment processor for drug dealers? Like, how does that was
interesting go? Because LinkedIn, by the way, is like the best social media platform for cannabis. Love it.
Who would have thought that would have been the leader?
I love it. It's the leader. And so that was my biggest coming out was my entire database when I launched PayRio was JP Morgan.
Sure.
So, cannabis, obviously JP Morgan actually is a huge supporter of cannabis in Canada because it's federally legal there. But, my kids, when starting PayRio, I really wanted to make a difference with female founded payment company. When I was at the fintech, it was wonderful, but I was, there's only 1% women, and it just was this, it wasn't a feel good kind of industry when I got back in the startup, and I wanted to change that and have a fun, vibrant, payment provider. And my kids didn't really know the difference. They're young. They're 10, 9, and 7. But what they did realize that is my daughter, she's the youngest, her name is Rio.
Okay.
So my company PayRio, and the boys, her 2 older brothers, pretty jealous about that.
I was going to say, it's hey, female founded. We went with the one that we had, right?
Exactly. And I mean, their names are very Italian, so I don't think it would have flowed as much as Rio.
Hey, Giovanni.
His name's Gino, my middle guy, and then Nico's my oldest. So that wouldn't have flowed. But we'll figure out a way for them.
It's not a bad thing. Maybe the next arm, if there's
maybe the nonprofit arm one day
fund or something that goes along with it. I don't know. You can name like a payment terminal after them or something. It's the Geo.
The Geo.
Very cool. I always find it interesting, the parents that are in this industry, because we have to interact with calm civilian parents at this point, right? And I used to joke around all the time, like when I first entered the industry, I would go to events with my daughter, who was very young. It was actually during the pandemic, and I wouldn't tell people what I did because I was afraid that they would look down upon myself and her subsequently because of that. And maybe that was more for me, and I just didn't want to have that conversation. So a lot of times, like sales and marketing, sometimes I would go as far as saying agriculture, right? And that's as far as I would go. And then all of a sudden there seemed to be this cultural shift where I would tell people what I did. The people I ended up getting close with, I would tell them what I did.
Yeah.
But I would tell people what I did, and then they would want to talk to me. And that's all. I was the only one they wanted to talk to. And then they would bring their friends over and talk to me. And then they'd be like, what stocks do you like? What do you think of Tilray? I think they just lost $1 billion fucking dollars. That's what I think. But everyone who ever talked to me at a party, I told you to stay away from that. You're fucking welcome. But they would talk my ear off. And then all of a sudden I was just like, now I say, I don't tell people what I do because I don't have that kind of time on my hands anymore. Like I have over 300 hours of myself talking about on the internet. Do you find, like, I don't know how long you've been in the industry for, but do you find that as well too, where like you almost have this self-stigma around it, or is it different for you? Because I hate to say it this way, but like we are in a time where it's very good to be proud to have a women-owned and founded business, even though you're in cannabis. It's like, does one cancel out the other?
I thought it would. So when I finally launched PayRio on LinkedIn, you know, all of my JP Morgan colleagues did what you did. They took me, you know, didn't maybe post it on LinkedIn, but said, oh, I use cannabis too.
Yeah.
You know, this is part of my life. This has helped me. And then I realized with, you know, the support from maybe an organization that can't openly talk about it, and then LinkedIn, it's like that community, the cannabis community is so welcoming. And I'm so like engulfed in that community that I feel accepted everywhere, you know?
It's funny that you're able to seek out your own, because I remember there's two dads that were kids played soccer together. And I was able to find out that one was a big pothead, bigger than me, which was shocking. And we would get together and we'd hang out. And then there was another one, we went to his kid's birthday party, and he had a big lighter to light his kids' candles. And I noticed on the bottom of the big lighter was a little ash stain. And I'm just like,
you're like, I know. And everyone, it's like they're undercover cannabis users. And so I haven't had the, you know, the stigma. I think the biggest one is with my parents, right? Just because they're from a different, you know, generation of just understanding. But I feel like everyone kind of in our generation, it's so we're celebrating being in cannabis.
But isn't one of the great joys in life as an Italian is getting high and having Sunday dinner? I mean, how do you eat that much food without getting?
It's the only way to eat all the pasta.
It is. I'm Jewish, but I grew up in all Italian households. I remember one of my closest friends, his dad used to say, when you guys come to dinner, clear eyes. And I'm like, yeah, okay, buddy. How much food is your wife making?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, so tell us where we can find you. Tell us, you know.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for supporting a female founded business and having, we're excited to be a sponsor.
I'm sure they would kick my ass if I didn't.
There you go. There you go.
They're 3 and 1, so I don't know if they have the physical ability to, but
one day they're gonna run that house. You're gonna be in.
What do you mean one day they're going
they're
to
already they are they are basically already
yes
I know. So PayRio.co. And you know, we're on Instagram, PayRio_HQ. But any way to support us, follow us on Instagram. We just launched this amazing blog called 420 Minutes.
Very cool.
And we have my head of community, Amanda Farron. She's a wonderful writer. We want to turn it into a podcast one of these days, but we really, you know, we provide payments for dispensaries. We also help on the e-com side. So cannabis seeds, anything non-THC. And we really want to be involved in the community. We're so grateful to be a part of this community. And what we do is helping dispensaries grow. I mean, the average order, the average ticket grows at least 20%, but we've seen all the way up to 46% when they add our products. So we're contributing to the growth and the success of operators.
I don't know about you, but for the first time ever in this industry, it was the first time I ever enjoyed going to see clients. Like I had a couple, like when I was in the tech days and everything else, I had a couple where it's like, oh, I'm excited to go see this person. But for the most part, I'd be like, all right, let's get this over with. I love going to see clients more than I love doing my job. But the beautiful thing about that is it's technically doing my job.
Yeah.
You know, I go to a lot of cultivate. I just did a cross country road trip with a friend of mine, and we went through Montana and St. Louis. And I'm like, hey, we got to hit dispensaries. Like, we just picked them in Montana. By the way, we ditched it at state line.
Totally.
I'm like, yeah, but this is a new state. What do you mean? I'm like, I want to see what they have.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally my favorite thing to do, to go to a new city and check out the dispensaries.
It's so fun. Yeah. It's just the best community.
Absolutely.
Out there. Yeah.
Aubrey, thank you so much for
joining
us today.
All right, Todd. Bye.
Great to see you. Oh, sorry.